I was just reaching across the desk as you said that. I was reaching for this. Look, it's my no button. Okay. Those that are doing one-to-one coaching will know what this no button is, but it's really important to be able to say no to the right things.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes me, for want of a better word, cringe, okay, or kind of, I don't know, hold my head if you like, as a business coach, is when I see on social media normally people asking for contracts. Anybody got a contract I can use? All right. And I know there's lots of kind people out there, and we say, yeah, yeah, I'll send you mine. But the trouble is with that, well, we can discuss it, right? What the trouble is with that, apart from usually they're out of date. That's the
Yeah.
worst thing, I think, is they're out of date. They don't necessarily reflect your exact business.
Yeah.
And so you don't have the protection really. The only thing you're really kind of fulfilling is that law where you got to have a contract within 8 weeks, I think it is, of starting. My name's Carl Hinder, and you're listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast, the podcast for salon spa and clinic owners who want to grow with more structure, more confidence, and better results. Episode 60 Human Resources with Jenefer Livings, Part 1. Okay, guys, welcome to another Salon Help Good to Go podcast. Now, this week I've got the wonderful Jenefer Livings with me from Silk Helix, and we're going to talk about all things HR. Now, if you haven't been onto the Good to Go podcast before, this comes out every Sunday at 4 p.m. It's designed to kickstart your week. Sometimes I'm on my own. Usually we have wonderful guests like Jenefer, and we work on things that inspire you or get you to make some changes in your business. So, right then, let's dive in. Jenefer, thank you and
Hello.
welcome. Thank you for jumping on board with us today. Do you want to tell the guys, tell the viewers, tell the audience who you are, what you do, and all about Silk?
Hello. Yes. So I'm Jennifer. So I founded Silk Helix in 2019, and we are HR consultancy, which means we do things all HR, employment law, management, kind of getting the best out of people. So it's not just compliance. That's one side of it, but more it's how do you get the best out of your people? How do you make sure that you've got the right foundations to deal with problems if they arise, and more importantly, trying not to or trying to avoid them arising in the first place. So that, yeah, kind of in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Excellent. What about you, Jenefer? What's Jenefer all about?
Jennifer is um, been who's Jennifer? Been in employment law geek for about 20 years. So that's kind of my professional background. I love working directly with business owners, so small businesses rather than in kind of big corporates where I can really get stuck in. And then a bit kind of outside of work, because obviously I don't work 24/7. I'm also mum to two children and one who is neurodivergent. So that adds quite an
Oh,
interesting bit to my life and keeps me really busy. So it's either, yeah, employment law or parenting at the moment. And yeah, one day they'll move out and I'll have time to do something else as well, I'm sure. But yeah, that's it, me.
yeah. That sounds like life for so many of us. But you love working as well, though, don't you?
I do. I
And
do.
you know, people hate it when we say that. People hate it. What do you mean you love working? You're meant to do not work. But I absolutely love it too. I think if you're a true entrepreneur, you do really.
Yeah, and it's the creativity of working for yourself as well. I think that's the bit that keeps me buzzing, and yeah, so I love it.
Now we've got two really um, particular and articulate subjects that we're going to cover today. But before we dive into them, now I didn't prep you for this, so apologies. Before we dive into them, though, let's just have a look at the benefits of HR to a business. Because if you're a micro business, and I mean, micro businesses, I think these days are anything under 200 employees or something, but I don't mean that. I mean, in the kind of salon, spa, clinic industry, small businesses could have like one, two, three, four players or one, two, three, four members of staff. They don't have HR departments. You know, they can't send a member of staff, go and see HR for your holiday form or go and see HR to sign your contract. And even if you're big with 10, 12, 15, you probably still haven't got that. That probably is the salon owner, isn't it? You
Yep.
know, the salon owner's got all of these hats, as well as the domestic hat that we talked about being mom or dad or something like
Yep.
that. So where does HR, like the kind of resource that you can provide, where does that come into it for them? How, they listen to this now and they go in, well, I don't know anything about HR. So how does Jennifer get to
Yeah.
help them?
Yeah, so HR really varies depending on what type of business you are. And as I said, I really like working with those sort of smaller businesses, direct the business owner, as opposed to like the big corporates. And often when we think of HR, we're thinking big corporates, as you say, holiday forms and all the kind of admin stuff that HR look after, and the consistency and the computer says no kind of HR. I don't like that. It's not what you need if you're in a small business. But what you do need is two things. So you need compliance. The reason you need compliance is because if something goes wrong, so you might be working great with somebody, it might all be going along swimmingly, but then they get disgruntled one day and all of a sudden things are going wrong, and your friendly relationship where you'd agreed to do things that weren't compliant with the law, all of a sudden they're bringing you to an employment tribunal, or they have an accident at work, they can't work anymore. Things like that make things go wrong very, very quickly. So that's why compliance is important, and why I'd say, like, you really do need to be thinking about this. I mean, when I talk about accidents, there's also things around health and safety, tax. It does overlap those things as well, which they might not go wrong. You might just have an investigation. You might have somebody have an accident, those kind of things. So there's that bit of it. But then there's also that when you employ somebody, they've got different priorities to you as a business owners. You're saying, Carl, we love what we do because we're entrepreneurs, we're the business owner, we want to go to work. I mean, I'm sitting there watching TV in the evening and some ideas for work, it's popping in my head. That's different for an employee. They give you their time. They sell you 8 hours of their day to come and provide their services for those 8 hours. They go home, they switch off. That's the entitlement of an employee. That is the benefit of being an employee above being a business owner. And for some people, that suits. So what you've then got to look at is, well, what is it that's important to them? What do they want? And yeah, they may love the business. They may love coming to work. And it's great if people do. And I really advocate that people, we are spending 8 hours a day at work. We should be enjoying what we do. But there's also things that are other priorities to them, like, am I getting the right holiday entitlement? Do I know I can take my holiday entitlement? We're going to talk today about carers leave. My mum is becoming poorly. Am I going to be able to support her and look after her? Because do you know what? As much as your business and my job is something I enjoy, actually, my mum is more important to me. That's what your employee is thinking. So helping you get those things right so you don't have to think about it. And that's where I can come in to be thinking about this for you. One is to be playing that role of looking at, okay, business owners need, business need, employees need. How do we marry those and marry that with the employment law bit as well? And making sure that all works together. And that's really where I can come in and just be thinking about this for you, so you're not having to think about this on top of all of the other stuff you're trying to do when you're running a business.
I mean, that's interesting because I recently did a session. You might have seen. It was, well, I did it last night on being overwhelmed and overloaded, and it was all about business stress. And a lot of this overwhelm is to do with being organized. The number one anti-stress tool, if you like, is being organized. And
Yeah.
if we are going to, and I don't mean that the owners are doing this on purpose, but if they're going to firefight their way through contracts and through tribunals, or even just smaller things like people demanding holidays because they haven't filled out a form, or it's not in their conditions, or they don't know how much holiday they're supposed to have. This is just more and more stress, right? It's
Yeah.
just kind of like more and more overwhelmed. Now, I don't mean you guys who are listening can't cope, because you are amongst the finest firefighters in the world, in our salon, spa, and clinic industry. I don't want you to be like that. I want you to kind of, you know, be like Jennifer. Okay, I think, isn't that's an old thing, isn't it? Be like John or be like Jennifer. Get organized. And the word that I wrote down when you started talking, then before I wrote down overwhelm and stress, I thought, oh, is protection, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's it's your protection system. It's your insurance, really. If we do things right now, not only does your stress go wrong, sorry, your stress go down, but your chances of being having any issues are going to be much much lower, right? It's a
Yeah.
protection system.
It is exactly that. And when it comes to overwhelm as well, it's taking the admin off of you and things like employment contracts. Where do you start with writing an employment contract? Okay, I can just come and literally take that off you, do it for you. But there's also the boundaries bit. I see so many business owners get overwhelmed by keep saying yes to things. So they don't know what they can say no to. And often there's a fear that, well, employment law is all on the side of the employee. And actually, it's not. As a business owner, you've got a lot of power, but you can give it away really easily by giving the wrong answers. And that's what leads to overwhelm, because what you find is you've got, and particularly I see it with salon owners, where you see salon owners doing everything because, oh, this one wanted holiday and that person wanted time off, and now I'm left with the only one here, and I couldn't say no. And actually, yeah, you could say no, and you should have said no. And that's the thing as well. It's giving you that power and that confidence to say no, to know where the boundaries are. And I think, because I know the law, I can give those answers really quickly, as opposed to having to Google it, try and find out what the all of that kind of stuff, which, as you say, with overwhelm and stress, is it just takes
Yeah,
so much time.
I mean, it won't help you guys on kind of audio podcast, but anyone watching this on YouTube podcast, I was just reaching across the desk as you said that. I was reaching for this. Look, it's my no button. Okay, those that are doing one-to-one coaching will know what this no button is, but it's really important to be able to say no to the right things.
Yeah.
One of the things that makes me, for want of a better word, cringe, okay, or kind of, I don't know, hold my head if you like, as a business coach, is when I see on social media normally people asking for contracts. Anybody got a contract I can use? All right, and I know there's lots of kind people out there, and we say, yeah, yeah, I'll send you mine. But the trouble is with that, well, we can discuss it, right? What the trouble is with that, apart from usually they're out of date. That's the
Yeah.
worst thing, I think, is they're out of date. They don't necessarily reflect your exact business.
Yeah.
And so you don't have the protection really. The only thing you're really kind of fulfilling is that law where you got to have a contract within 8 weeks, I think it is, of starting
Day
employment.
one
Other than
now.
that, how long is it?
Day one.
Oh,
It
day
used to be
one.
8 weeks. It's now day one.
Well, great. Well, something for me to remember then. I mean, I've always had mine on day one.
Mm.
Okay. And I also say, although there must be some guidelines on this, you can help me with this again. I never used to let my guys take their contracts home to sign either. Yeah. I used to
Oh,
give them time in the business to read them and go through the contract with them, because otherwise it goes on their coffee table at home, doesn't it, for 2 months before going in the bin, before you remembering that they haven't brought it back. You know what I mean?
yep.
So, is there a cool enough period? I know they're not selling double glaze in here, but would it be better just to be in the salon or spa clinic and sit down, go through them? Unless, of course, they are under 18, then maybe you need a different approach.
So my personal opinion, and it is opinion because legally, yep, your way works. That's absolutely fine. My personal opinion is, when somebody starts a job, we're asking them to sign up to terms and conditions. And we should share with them the terms and conditions, because once they've walked in on day one, they are a bit stuck. As an employer, we can just dismiss them really easily. Technically, they can walk out too. But how many people can really walk out of a job when they've got the bills to pay, mouths to feed at home? Most people can't. So my view from a fairness point of view is to send it out at the point of offering, because you shouldn't have anything to hide. These are your terms and conditions. If somebody doesn't want to sign up to your terms and conditions, they're not right for you, and you need to know that before they even start. That also gets around the whole coffee table thing, because you're right. You send them home on day one, they do end up on the coffee table, and they don't come back, usually for no other the reason than people aren't that interested, and it's just admin. Whereas before they start, that's when they're most interested in getting these things right. And also, you can do this is a condition of you accepting the offer, is that you sign this and get this back to me. So for me, it makes the admin bit a bit easier. it means we get it out to somebody, they know what they're signing up to, so there's no quibbles on day one that something isn't what they expected to see. And it's got it all solved. So that would be my approach to it personally, from a kind of moral point of view. But I mean, either way works.
No, I think it's a great approach, and I think I would change my approach, because one of the things that when I'm doing recruitment or recruitment training, telling people how to get staff, is you don't want to start someone under false pretenses, that's for sure, and you do want them to be prepared. You do want them to know what they're buying into. I'm more than happy with that. I would probably say to the salon owner, the double up though, because that still doesn't mean they've read it. I would double up. And I
Yeah.
say to this as part of the induction, sit down with them. I know it's boring, guys, right? I know, but read every line with them and saying, do you know you've got X amount of holidays, and you've got to take them in this time period? Don't just say to them, read the holiday section. Maybe their reading skills are not so good. Maybe their attention skills are not so good. Maybe their interpretation of what you're saying ain't so good. And you would be better to lose them before they even start. Okay, so that's the benefit of what you're doing. Or at the worst case, and it won't feel like this on the day, to lose them that day,
Mm,
be- rather than start trundling down the 2 3 months, 6 months, 2 years of underperformance. So no,
yeah.
I'm going to adopt, for my recruitment coach, I'm going to adopt that, and I'm going to push it forward, that we get them out there, because I think with anything else really. I think,
Yeah.
maybe with any other what do you say, introductory kind of information, anything that makes them feel welcome, right?
But this is it. I like a welcome pack. So
Yeah,
a
yeah,
letter that's like, congratulations, we're really excited to have you join the
yeah.
team.
I'm
That's
all for
much
that.
better than an offer letter, which is a bit formal and a bit kind of like your holiday. And then you've got the contract, which gives people all the details. And then there's also oh, this is, I don't know, the Christmas party that's coming up, or this is I don't know, something about, yeah, welcome people, make people feel excited, especially in the current climate. We're seeing a lot, and I don't know if you're seeing it so much in salon industry. We're certainly seeing it elsewhere. People accepting job offers, giving in their notice at their current place, but then they're still in recruitment processes. So they then get offered another thing and you don't turn up at yours and go somewhere else. So
Mm,
all of that welcoming, especially if there's a gap between offer and starting, everything that keep hook them at that point is really important. And it does all help. And as you say, with that, the training sort of piece as part of the induction as well, there's the balance between, there's certain policies, because you've, alongside your contract, you really should have an employee handbook as well. That contains policies like your disciplinary grievance policies, which you legally have to have. Nobody wants to know about the disciplinary policy, and they should be disciplined, right? You don't need to sit and read that with somebody on day one. Like, it doesn't really set a great tone to do that. But there's the holiday. They want to know how to book their holiday. That's really important. If they're going to be off sick, don't wait till they're sick to realize they don't actually know who to call when they're off sick. You're absolutely
yeah,
right. But then there's other policies like social media, for example, or
yes.
working
Mobile
in
phones.
competition, mobile phones, where different places will have different rules. And it's really important that you highlight to someone, this isn't just a piece of paper that's now going to go on in a dusty filing cabinet and never be seen again. This is operational. This is what we do. This is what we expect of you when it comes to things like, say, your social media, your mobile phones. Highlight those to people. And so you've got that balance between the bits they want to know and the bits you need them to know. And I think that it helps you should you need to dismiss. Hopefully it'll help you avoid that, because they won't do anything wrong. But if they do, you can show you've trained on it, which is really important.
I think that's fantastic, because one of the big mistakes that I see salon owners having, and I've been working with people this week who are about to fall into this trap, is they get really good people. In fact, I got messaged with this. I've got this fantastic member of staff. Okay, they're using similar systems and similar brands to what I'm so excited. The trouble is, if we don't induct them with the right terms and conditions, and there's more to this, there's obviously the whole client journey, blueprint, retailing, all that sort of stuff as well. But we start in, with HR today. If we don't do it, you basically get this employee delivering a version of their last business in your business. And if you multiply that with three or four, stylists, therapists, technicians, and you don't, have a training introduction, induction period with everything set in place, you end up with three or four different brands and versions, which might work to a degree until something goes wrong. And then you start getting confusion, you start getting breakdown in communication, and people get unhappy. Or you try and get some help, say from someone like myself, and it was probably the same with you, Jennifer. We then try and help, and we have to change the standards that these people have been used to for a long time. And it's not them being awkward. We've trained them that they're allowed to do whatever they want for 6 months or 6 years, and now we
Yeah.
got to change it. So those early days, those early days are just, oh God, they're so important.
So important. Yeah, completely agree. And even things like your blueprint, when you've trained people on it, although it's not directly a HR issue, if somebody doesn't follow it, you need your HR processes to follow it. And so the first thing I'm going to ask is, well, what training did you give? Because as you say, if you haven't given that, you've got to start back at square one and give that training. Whereas if you've given all the training and they still don't do it, you're going to know fairly quickly that this isn't
Yeah.
going to work out, and you can deal with it fairly simply.
Do you kind of advocate people writing their training out, and the employee being taken through it and signed to say that they've received that training? Is that still
Yeah,
a standard that gives us an element of protection?
yeah, strongly advocate for that. Yeah, have whether that's like one induction sort of checklist where you're going to go during the induction period, you'll get 5 bits of training and you've listed them out, and then you sign at the bottom to say all of them have been done, or whether you do it per training doesn't really matter. But yeah, something that you can wave and go, look, you did get this, and you signed to say you did is really useful.
Yeah, and be really clear, guys, with that employee about what they're signing for. This isn't a trick to get them to sign so you got them in the future. The more clarity they've got, the better performance you will have from them.
Yeah,
The more they'll buy into everything you're doing. Now, one of the things, Jennifer, about HR is that it's huge. Okay, it's a massive, massive, massive subject. It's no different to, I don't know, accountancy, or I don't know, marketing, right? It's just too big an issue. Now, there's a lot of legislation involved with HR, and the problem is it changes, right?
yep,
It's not as if you can go on a HR course and 20 years later you can still roll out the same information. As you
yep,
just pointed out to me, where I've obviously gone through the net of it going from up to 8 weeks down to present day,
yep.
even though fortunately I always wanted present day. I always coached that, but that was more by luck than design. So let's kind of delve into how this podcast is going to be relevant to people. There are literally, I don't know how many hundreds, but almost unlimited laws, guidelines, pieces of information that people need to get right in their HR. It's very difficult for salon and business owners to keep up with everything. What's on the horizon for salon business owners to kind of avoid, if you like, or be aware so that they can, stay in line with their HR? What's happening in the world of HR at the moment?
So April 2024, April this year, we've had a few changes coming into force to be aware of. One is the introduction of carers leave, which is unpaid leave for the purpose of caring. There has been a change to paternity leave in that the 2 weeks can now be taken as two separate weeks, as opposed to having to be a block of 2 weeks. And we've also got changes to flexible working, and it's now a day one right. And that one's a really important one to actually be thinking about during your recruitment processes, and actually goes back to what we were talking about with issuing contracts and things as well. So can go into each of those in a bit more detail and what I
Yeah,
really mean. So
let's dive into that carers one, because
yeah,
I don't think most people will be aware of it. I
yeah,
don't think most employees will be aware of it either, and it makes us good business people, for us to to have this knowledge, because we need to manage it.
hmm,
And when I heard about it, and I think I might have heard about it from you actually, when I heard about it, there was my first thought was, well, what's the difference between that and emergency leave and all that sort of stuff? So maybe you can kind of just put it in context for us.
Absolutely. Yes, it actually didn't get as much press as I thought it would. So I thought we'd be seeing a lot more over the press about it, but we haven't, which is interesting because that probably will impact the uptake of it. Um, so, but carers leave it's a week of up to a week of leave. It can be taken in blocks of as little as half a day. So if somebody works 5 days a week, they can take 10 half days in a year, or they can take a full week, or any kind of combination in between. It's unpaid and it's for the purpose of caring responsibilities, where that care is for somebody with a long term disability, and that is a disability as defined by the Equality Act, which is really important, that definition. It can also be used when caring for somebody who has a terminal illness. So it because the reason that's separated out is the Equality Act is long term, 12 months or longer. You could have somebody with a terminal illness where it's not fitting that 12 months. So that's important as well. Also, somebody who needs care as a result of their age. So again, might not fit under as a disability under the Equality Act, but needs care as a result of their age. So it's really designed for people who are caring for older relatives, parents.
Yeah.
Predominantly, it could be used for children as well if they have a disability over and above normal parenting responsibilities.
Okay, but let's kind of pause there. Let's break that down a little bit.
Yep.
So that I think that's really, really clear. Okay, that they have to be disabled or terminally ill, or possibly a child if they have the disability. I get that.
Mhm.
So the two things that I kind of want to know, I'm trying to play the part here of the salon owner,
Yeah.
clinic, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I get that, and I probably agree because it could be me as well. I might have to deal
Mhm.
with this at sometime in my career. Now, the two things that kind of spring to mind straight away. First of all, does this person have to even be related to me? And do I have to tell you about it, or can I just say I'm taking off day carers leave, but I haven't got to tell you who for? I haven't got to tell you anything. I'm just taking it. How? What's the minutia on this?
Okay, yes. So the carers leave is for somebody who is considered to be a dependent. And a dependent is considered to be an employee's spouse, civil partner, child, or parent. It's also somebody who lives in the same household as an employee. So may not be a partner or spouse, but lives in you're living together, but in a way that is not as a kind of lodger, tenant, boarder, or employee of your employee, if that makes sense. So as long as you've got it's a relationship rather than a kind of employee relationship or a tenant lodger relationship is important there. And that's what's classed as a dependent. So carers leave is about dependents. It does also say any other person who would reasonably rely on the employee to provide or arrange care, which is the same line as is in the time off for dependents, which is the emergency leave that you referred to earlier. So that is in there. It's kind of a catch-all if there was something. So I guess it could cover if you had a neighbour that literally had nobody else and you found yourself caring for them, potentially you could use it for that. Um, I think we're most likely to be seeing it for family members.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yes, we do have to tell our employers. So we have to declare that we are using carers leave for the purpose that it is intended. I recommend that you actually have a form because there's a declaration that people have to sign to say why they're taking the carers leave. The easiest way to do that is to have a form that people can fill in and just sign, say these are the dates I want and this is when I want it. What we can't do is ask specifically what the care is that they're providing or judge the care. So care could be taking somebody shopping, taking somebody to the hairdresser, taking like it's not necessarily taking them to the doctors to a hospital appointment. It could be social things that somebody that you care for needs as well as medical things that they need. So the definition of caring is quite wide, and we can't actually ask people specifically what they're doing. We can just ask them to declare that they are using this for the purposes of
Mhm.
care.
Do I have to give you some notice, or can I just just I'm off now?
Yeah, no, the
Yeah,
notice period
yeah,
is either 3 days or double the period you intend to take. So if they're taking half a day, then they're going to have to give 3 days notice because that's longer. If they're taking a full week, then they're going to have to give the double period for notice. So it's not a very long notice period considering what you've got with holidays and things like
yeah,
that,
yeah,
where it's particularly in salons, I often recommend kind of sort of 12-week notice periods because of rebooking and things like that,
yeah,
where
yeah,
that's when your client appointments get booked in. What I would say, if somebody's a carer, then this is going to have quite an impact on them. And potentially there's going to be some bad news at times, which could have greater impacts on their ability to be at work. There's also likely to be the time off for dependence. Now, time off for dependence is the unexpected incidents, which is again children or adults that are dependent upon you. So if you've got somebody, whether they've got a child or whether they're caring for an adult, it's worth knowing this. It's worth knowing your employee feels cared for when you take a bit of an interest, kind of how's your mum, how's your child, those kind of small talk questions are a way of showing somebody that you're interested in them as a person and what's going on for them. But also, if I don't know they've had a really bad day, things have gone really wrong, that could be as a result of stresses that they've got outside of work. So knowing about them can help you to manage them. So if you've got those kind of relationships and discussions with your employees, they're actually more likely to give you longer notice periods because they're more likely to work with you. And also you can have backup plans to say, right, well, I know this could happen at some point. How are we going to deal with it as and when it happens? And I think that's where the relationship building it comes in. So you've got the law. The law gives employees basic rights. Yes, as an employer, you can be saying, well, okay, they can only give me double notice, but or 3 days notice. But actually, if you're what you don't want as an employer is to be going down to the law. You don't want to be fighting the law with each other. You don't want an employee coming and going, well, these are my rights and I want them, and you're
yeah,
saying, well, no, that relationships are what's going to make this work.
yeah. It's totally. I mean, I spend a lot of my time now on recruitment, but I spend probably equal amount of time on um, retainment as well of employees in a business. And I'm
Mm,
always moving salon business owners towards managing staff. Not many businesses actually manage staff. And when I say manage them, I mean proactively. They deal with it reactively all the time, like, oh, chuck the holiday form over there and we'll sort it out, as opposed to saying, schedule your holidays and put someone in charge. So the whole industry has to move towards those kind of practices. We've got
yeah,
to get closer to our staff. We got to build a team in a different way. I think the only good thing about this kind of process is it's going to happen anyway, except if it's that important for them to go under the carers banner, they probably throw in a sickie or something anyway. Yeah. Or
yeah,
they're thinking about changing jobs or going self employed because they've got to do it.
hmm
If they throw an absence sickness, of course we can deal with that, but that's not normally a quick process.
hmm
We don't normally go, the law is, and we're going to fire you for being sick 3 times,
yeah,
although it used to be much firmer years ago. So we haven't, whether we believe it or not, we are dealing with this.
hmm
We're already dealing with it, and either they're taking the time or they are unhappy about it.
yeah.
So I think it's there. But just clarify for me: is this a right to request or just an outright right? An outright
It
right.
is an outright right to have.
Okay. Okay.
So you can decline it, but they're still entitled to take it within the next month. You're right that they will probably take a sickie, and I think that's what people have been doing for years.
Mhm.
Because ultimately, if somebody you're very close to needs care, then that's going to be your priority in life. That is, it's going to take over. So I think, yeah, people will find other ways of doing it. So in terms of turning it down, you've got to have a very strong business reason for doing so. So I guess if they ask for it on your biggest peak day of the year and you absolutely can't, you could turn down on that basis. But also, if they're coming to you, I don't know, 3 days before the biggest peak day of the year and asking for this, I'd at that point be having that conversation with them, because if something has happened and they're dealing with a situation that's a kind of relative emergency or unexpected, then do you want them in? Are they going to be the best person to be there on the busiest day of the year? I mean, I guess if they're just taking somebody shopping on that day, then you might want to have a sort of conversation around, well, could it happen the next day or within the month? But if it's a hospital appointment and there's doesn't matter to them whether it's that you say, oh, you can have it in 2 weeks' time. That's no good to them, is it? So,
No, no.
so yeah, so it is a right to take it, and not just a right to request, which the flexible
Yeah.
working is. But I would be, you've got to have very, very strong reasons to turn it down.
Yeah, I mean, I really can feel and see, having been a salon owner myself. You know, you're there on a, let's say it's a Thursday then, and someone says, I need Saturday off. And you're like, well, hang on a minute. This color client is their wedding. Yeah, this color
Yeah,
client is their birthday, or they've been coming to us for 5 years, and we can't let look. Those pressures are absolutely immense.
of
If
course.
it's of course, if it's genuine, they're either going to throw sick, or they might just move it under the banner of emergency leave, depending on the
Yep.
circumstances. I mean, I keep scribbling the same kind of words down as we're chatting. It really comes down to this communication and relationship, doesn't it? It really
Yeah.
comes down to um, knowing your staff. You know, I think I said this to you last time, that we don't know our staff and we don't know about their life. I had to challenge my guys when I'm in this salon, and they said, "Oh, I'm having a problem with this member of staff," and I'll say something like, "What does her husband do, and what's his interests?" And they're like, "I don't know. He don't work here." I'm like, "Well, that means that just tells me you never talk to your staff." And I don't mean because and it's not, um, what do they call it? Just chatting away. I mean, purposefully asking people about them, caring about their situation, because I
Yeah.
think what you was indicating there was, if we were listening to these members of staff, if we were asking them from time to time, maybe formally, maybe in their one-to-one every week, maybe at their appraisals, maybe in the staff room, if we're listening to them and say, "Oh, what did you do the weekend?" and they're saying things like, "Oh, I had to take my gran, to the park, and I had to take my gran here," you'll know. You'll be close to those people when they start saying, "My gran's really, really ill." You might be a good enough boss to get proactive on this. Listen, why don't you take half a day? Why don't you take a day, paid or unpaid? That's up to you. Whatever you're doing in terms of your business. I just think we're so distanced from our
Yeah.
team, from as people, not as hairdressers, therapists, technicians. We have really great relationships with them in that context, but we don't have great relationships. And anyone listening to this who has got those great relationships, I bow to you, because I know there are some amazing salon owners out there. I'm being very general, um, but it is the majority, unfortunately. So, Greggy, there goes a pen over my shoulder. Uh, I have a big pile of pens behind me at the end of my podcasting day. Um, okay, so I think we kind of get into the situation where publicity also will help with this. I think
Yeah.
more people need to know about it, because customers will get to understand as well.
Yeah.
This will normalize, but we must embrace it, guys. Those of you are gonna you won't be embracing it with 3 days notice on your busiest day, I know, but we must embrace it because it's legislation. And what's the opposite? The opposite is to get upset yourself, all uppity
Mhm.
about it, and destroy your team.
Yeah, and the reality is that we know that there are challenges kind of with the NHS and things like that, and that means that people who are in these situations where they're caring for somebody whether that is an adult or a child with a disability, it's becoming much, much harder to do. And it's going to then have a knock-on effect to everything else that they do in their lives. And the more people feel cared about, the more as a person, that, as you say, that's so important, because it will impact how they feel about you, your business, and the work that they do, whether they stay as well. It's going to be much harder if they've got a really good relationship with you and they know that they're valued and they know that they're understood. It's a high risk to leave that job and go and work for somebody else who they don't know if they're going to get that value from. So it does for retention. And when we know that recruitment's so challenging, keeping people becomes even more important.
You have been listening to the Salon Help Good to Go podcast with Carl Hinder and Jenefer Livings. Please join us in part 2. Meanwhile, go to the show notes, pick up the link for Jenefer, and also leave us a review. And don't forget to let other salon, spa and clinics know that I am here every Sunday at 4 p.m, kickstarting their week. I'll see you in part 2.